For years, Americans have been told the same reassuring story. The economy is recovering, wages are rising, and the country is moving forward. But on the ground, inside real households, a different reality has been unfolding. Quieter, slower, but far more alarming. Families are working more, yet saving less. Prices climb while paychecks stall. Debt grows faster than opportunity, and the lifestyle that once defined the American middle class is slipping further out of reach. This documentary explores that hidden reality, the pressures people feel but rarely talk about, the structural cracks beneath the headlines, and the deeper forces pushing millions toward financial instability. From the cost of living squeeze to the collapse of savings, from the explosion of consumer debt to the silent breaking of America's consumption model, each segment reveals a piece of a larger, uncomfortable truth. The problem isn't one crisis, it's the system itself starting to bend. And unless the country confronts what's happening beneath the surface, the American middle class won't just struggle, it will be reshaped entirely. This is the story of that transformation. You can feel it the moment you step into a grocery store. The aisles look the same, the brands haven't changed, but the prices tell a different story. A quiet pressure, slow, constant, and exhausting, has been building across the United States, and it's reshaping the daily lives of millions of Americans. Economists call it cost of living inflation. Most people simply call it surviving. Over the past few years, the price of basic necessities has risen at a speed the average paycheck can't keep up with. Groceries have climbed so quickly that even families who once felt financially comfortable are now budgeting down to the dollar. Staples like bread, eggs, chicken, and fresh vegetables cost significantly more. Not because Americans are buying more, but because global supply chains, higher production costs, and corporate pricing strategies have all converged into a single painful reality. The essentials cost more than ever. And it doesn't stop at the supermarket. Rent, one of the biggest expenses for the average American, has hit record highs in nearly every major city. A one-bedroom apartment, which once symbolized independence and stability, now consumes a disproportionate share of monthly income. Many Americans who thought they were progressing in life suddenly find themselves stuck in a cycle of renewing leases they can barely afford or moving to smaller, less safe neighborhoods simply to make ends meet. Utilities, to electricity, water, heating, internet, have quietly escalated in the background. It's the type of increase that doesn't shock you all at once. Instead, it creeps in slowly through bills that are just slightly higher each month, until one day you realize you're paying far more for the same basic services you've relied on for years. But the most alarming part isn't the rising prices. It's the fact that wages haven't kept up, even in jobs long considered stable. Teaching, nursing, retail management, logistics, public service workers are discovering that their take-home pay has barely moved. A small raise here, a cost of living adjustment there, but nothing that actually counters the real inflation hitting their lives. Most households might technically be earning more on paper, but once inflation is factored in, those raises lose their meaning. This is what economists refer to as real wage stagnation, a phenomenon where earnings grow just enough to look positive, yet not enough to improve anyone's actual living standard. It creates a cruel illusion of progress. Base salaries increase, but purchasing power quietly shrinks. For many Americans, this imbalance has forced difficult decisions. Some are cutting back on groceries, choosing cheaper, less nutritious options. Others are skipping medical appointments or delaying essential car repairs. Millions have become experts in coupon stacking, discount hunting, and timing purchases around paychecks. And a growing number of families, especially those in the middle class, have begun dipping into savings just to get through the month, slowly draining financial safety nets that took years to build. The crushing cost of living squeeze isn't a single event. It's a slow erosion and economic pressure that shows up every time you open your wallet, pay a bill, or walk past something you used to be able to afford. And the truth is simple. Americans are working harder than ever, yet getting less in return. This segment sets the foundation for understanding the deeper crisis unfolding across the country, a crisis that can't be measured by stock market, charts, or political talking points, but one that is visible in the daily lived experiences of ordinary people. In the United States, financial security has always been built on a simple idea: save a little, prepare for the unexpected, and protect yourself from hardship. But today, that idea is collapsing. Across the country, the American household savings rate has quietly fallen to one of its lowest points in decades. And unlike stock market trends or job numbers that make the news, this crisis doesn't feel dramatic or sudden. It feels personal. It shows up in the empty space inside a bank account and emptiness that grows month after month, paycheck after paycheck. For millions of Americans, the emergency fund, once seen as a financial lifeline, has become a distant memory. Most families don't have 3 months of savings. Many don't even have one, and a growing number have no savings at all. This is the silent savings collapse, and it's reshaping what it means to be financially vulnerable in America. The reasons behind it are painfully simple. Wages haven't kept up with rising expenses, leaving little, sometimes nothing, to set aside. Families who try to save often discover that every dollar they put away is pulled out again to cover groceries, gas, medical bills, or rent. The savings account becomes less of a safety net and more of a revolving door, temporarily filled but quickly drained. This constant depletion creates a dangerous financial fragility. It means that one unexpected event, an emergency room visit, a car breakdown, a sudden job loss, can overturn an entire household's stability. A single unplanned expense doesn't just disrupt a budget. It can trigger a spiral of debt, late fees, and financial stress that may take months or years to recover from. Debt becomes the only fallback option, not because families are reckless, but because they simply have no alternative. Credit cards are used for essentials. Personal loans bridge the gaps between paychecks, and payment plans are stretched to their limits. What once served as a financial cushion has turned into a chain, tightening with every swipe and every interest charge. And while some Americans believe they're managing, the numbers tell a harsher truth. The median savings in many age groups is so low that even a minor disruption, something as routine as a dentist bill or a home repair, could push them into financial crises. Households that appear stable from the outside are often one missed paycheck away from falling behind on rent or utilities. What makes this collapse so dangerous is that it happens quietly. There are no alarms, no headlines, no immediate signs of disaster. Just a gradual weakening of financial resilience, until the moment something goes wrong, and when it does, the fall is fast. The silent savings collapse isn't just about money. It's about the loss of something deeper, a sense of control, confidence, and security. It's about living in a country where the gap between what people earn and what they must spend grows wider each year, leaving little room for mistakes and even less room for planning a future. This is the unseen reality behind America's financial stress, an invisible crisis that turns everyday inconveniences into potential emergencies, and ordinary families into households living on the edge without ever meaning to be there. America's economy has always relied on one powerful engine: consumer spending. For decades, that system worked. People earned, people bought, and the cycle moved forward. But today, that engine is running on something far more fragile: debt. Across the country, consumer debt has climbed to the highest levels ever recorded. Credit cards are maxed out. Auto loans have become financially suffocating. Medical bills are stacking faster than they can be paid. And the average American household is carrying more financial weight than at any point in the nation's history. Economists warn that this is more than just a trend. It's a time bomb, one that's ticking quietly in the background of everyday life. Credit card balances have surged past previous peaks, fueled not by luxury spending, but by necessity. Most Americans aren't splurging on expensive vacations or high-end gadgets. They're using credit to buy groceries, to pay utility bills, to get through the last week before their next paycheck. This isn't retail therapy. This is survival spending. High interest rates only make the situation worse. A purchase of $20 can turn into $40 by the time it's paid off. A missed payment becomes a cycle of fees and penalties that trap families deeper into debt they never intended to carry. And yet, millions feel forced to swipe because the alternative, going without basic needs, feels even worse. Auto loans have followed the same pattern. Cars are more expensive than ever, and financing has become a long-term commitment that stretches far beyond what most people can sustain. What used to be a 3 or 4 year loan has quietly turned into 6 or 7 years, sometimes longer, locking households into monthly payments that chip away at their financial breathing room. Then there's medical debt, the uniquely American burden. A single emergency room visit, a routine surgery, or even a simple test can leave families with bills that take years to pay off. It doesn't matter if you have insurance. Out-of-pocket costs, deductibles, and denied claims push countless Americans into debt for simply trying to stay healthy. Together, these pressures form a dangerous equation. Rising costs plus stagnant wages plus essential spending equals unavoidable debt. And that debt accumulates faster than most households can manage. It grows quietly month after month until it becomes something far more threatening, a structural weakness in the entire financial foundation of the middle class. But the most revealing part of this crisis is what it says about the country itself. It exposes a reality many still find hard to admit. People aren't in debt because they're careless. They're in debt because the cost of living has risen beyond what their incomes can support. Debt has become the lifeline holding millions of Americans above water. But it's a lifeline with sharp edges, one that can turn on them without warning. When interest rates rise or bills pile too high, that lifeline becomes a weight, dragging them deeper into financial instability. This is the consumer debt time bomb. Not loud, not dramatic, just quietly expanding one credit card statement at a time. And when it finally reaches its limit, it won't just affect individual families. It will ripple across the entire economy. On paper, it looks like progress. A yearly raise, a higher hourly wage, a slight bump in salary that shows up in the company email with words like congratulations and well deserved. For a moment, it feels like life is moving forward. The system is working. Hard work is paying off. But when the paycheck arrives and the bills start stacking, the truth becomes impossible to ignore. You're earning more, yet somehow falling further behind. This disconnect isn't an accident, and it's not an illusion in your imagination. It's the direct result of a simple but powerful economic reality that most people are never taught to understand. The difference between nominal wages and real wages. Nominal wages are the numbers you see on your paycheck. Real wages are what those numbers are actually worth once inflation is taken into account. And for years now, something unsettling has been happening. Nominal wages have been going up, while real wages have quietly been going down. That means Americans are technically earning more money. But that money buys less than it used to. This is why a raise doesn't feel like progress, because it isn't. Inflation has been rising faster than incomes, creating a silent erosion that eats away at every dollar you make. The price of housing increases faster than your rent allowance. Grocery costs rise faster than your annual raise. Utility bills grow faster than the adjustments in your paycheck. By the time your wage increase kicks in, the higher cost of living has already consumed it. For most households, this creates a frustrating cycle. You get a raise. You feel a brief moment of relief. Then you realize everything around you has gotten more expensive, and you end up right back where you started, or worse. This phenomena is often misunderstood as personal failure. Why can't I manage my money? Why am I still struggling, even though I'm earning more? But the problem isn't discipline. It's math. When inflation rises 6%, but your wage rises 3%, you didn't get a raise. You got a pay cut wearing a disguise. This wage illusion has an even deeper consequence. It changes how Americans perceive their own financial stability. It creates a misleading sense of progress and engineered optimism that masks the reality of shrinking purchasing power. Families who believe they're improving discover they can't save, can't invest, and can't get ahead because every step forward is pulled backward by an invisible force. It also quietly reshapes the middle class. A job that once allowed a comfortable life now barely covers the essentials. A salary that used to signal upward mobility now signals survival. Paychecks that once supported a future now struggle to support the present. And the most dangerous part is how normal it feels. Year after year, the numbers rise just enough to create hope, but never enough to restore true financial stability. The illusion works because it's familiar, predictable, expected, but once you strip that illusion away, one truth becomes clear. Earning more doesn't matter. When everything costs more, the wage illusion isn't about raises. It's about the shrinking value of work itself, a quiet reality shaping the lives of millions of Americans who are realizing that progress in today's economy is often just an illusion on a piece of paper. In the American workplace, layoffs used to be loud. They came with headlines, urgent meetings, and corporate statements filled with scripted sympathy. Employees saw them coming, at least a little. There were signs, rumors, whispers in the break room, but today, layoffs look different. They're quieter, more subtle, more controlled. Across technology, logistics, retail, finance, and even healthcare, a new trend has taken shape: stealth layoffs. These are workforce cuts that happen quietly, strategically, and often without the traditional shockwaves that used to accompany sudden job losses. Companies avoid the big announcement, they avoid the scrutiny, and they avoid letting employees realize what's happening until the moment they're next in line. The stealth layoff process often begins with small shifts, hiring freezes that no one is told about, open positions that mysteriously remain unfilled, performance standards that tighten without explanation, budgets that shrink but are never openly discussed. Then, workloads increase, teams shrink, people leave and no one replaces them. What looks like normal turnover is actually the first stage of a restructuring plan designed to reduce costs without attracting attention. Companies mask downsizing by allowing positions to quietly disappear, blending cuts into the natural movement of employees in and out of the organization. And when the layoffs finally happen, they're small, spread out, and staggered. One employee today, two next week, a handful next month, never enough to make headlines. Never enough to trigger panic. Just enough to reduce payroll while maintaining the appearance of stability. This is why so many workers don't recognize the danger until it reaches them. The signs are subtle, and employees are conditioned to interpret them as routine workplace changes. People assume the extra workload is temporary. They assume management is reorganizing for efficiency. They assume no news means good news. But the absence of noise is precisely the point. Corporations prefer quiet layoffs because they minimize backlash from employees, the public, and investors. Big layoffs can drag down stock prices. Small ones, if done carefully enough, barely register. The psychological impact on workers is even more profound. Because there's no dramatic moment, no sudden shift, employees don't adjust their expectations or prepare for risk. They continue making long-term financial decisions under the assumption that their job is secure. Mortgages, car payments, childcare costs, everything proceeds as normal. Until the day everything stops, a worker is called into a short meeting, a script is read, a severance packet is offered, and by the end of the afternoon, they're locked out of their email. Their ID badge is deactivated, and the job they thought was stable is gone. Stealth layoffs create a unique kind of vulnerability. Not because people aren't paying attention, but because these cuts are designed to be invisible. They bypass warning signs, bypass transparency, and bypass the traditional protections that workers used to rely on. Across the country, tens of thousands of Americans have already been affected by these silent job cuts, often discovering too late that the healthy company they worked for had been downsizing for months. The corporate layoff wave is real, but most people won't see it coming. Not because they're blind, but because the companies laying them off have mastered the art of making the danger impossible to see until it's already too late. There is a familiar scene in America. A breaking news alert flashes, financial anchors smile, and the green arrows glow across the screen. The stock market is up. The Dow is climbing. The S&P is breaking records. And the headlines repeat the same reassuring message. The economy is doing great, but outside that studio, the streets tell a different story. Families are struggling to pay rent. Groceries cost more than ever. Savings accounts are empty. Debt is rising. Wages are stagnant. And an entire generation is wondering why they're falling behind in a country that is supposedly booming. This contradiction exposes one of the most misunderstood realities in modern American life. A rising stock market does not mean a healthy economy. In fact, the two have never been further apart. Wall Street and Main Street now operate like parallel worlds, interconnected on paper, yet separated in experience. One thrives on investor optimism, corporate earnings, and asset inflation. The other struggles under the weight of everyday costs, shrinking purchasing power, and financial uncertainty. So why does the market stay green while the public feels like it's sinking? Because the stock market doesn't measure human well-being. It measures corporate performance. It reflects profits, not paychecks. It tracks shareholder gains, not household stability. When companies cut jobs, reduce benefits, or automate labor, Wall Street rewards them. When wages stay low and productivity stays high, investors call it efficiency. When prices rise but salaries don't, corporations report record revenues and stocks jump. This dynamic creates a warped feedback loop. What harms the average worker often benefits the market. The retail worker struggling with rent, their employer's rising prices push the company's stock upward. The nurse, overwhelmed by her hospital chain, reports higher margins. The tech worker laid off in a cost-cutting wave. Analysts applaud the leaner operating structure. In this system, hardship on Main Street can translate directly into gains on Wall Street. This widening divide is easy to normalize because most Americans aren't invested heavily enough in the market to feel the upside. Retirement accounts exist, but they don't offset the daily grind of rising costs. The wealthiest 10% own nearly all the stocks, while the majority watch from the sidelines as numbers rise that mean nothing to their actual lives. The danger isn't just economic hits, psychological. People are told the economy is strong, yet everything in their reality feels weak. The message creates a sense of confusion, frustration, and even self-blame. They question their own financial habits, unaware that the indicators they're taught to trust were never designed to measure the health of ordinary people in the first place. This is the anti-mainstream truth. The market can be booming while the country is breaking. Wall Street celebrates optimism. Main Street endures reality. And the gap between those two worlds has become something America now treats as normal, a separation so ingrained into the national narrative that most people no longer question why prosperity only shows up in investor portfolios, not in household budgets. But the truth is simple. A green market isn't a sign of a strong economy. It's a sign of a system that has learned to grow even when the people inside it cannot.